Hello my friends, July 24th, and today I'm doing a video about comparison of the a comparison of the raised beds and the keyhole garden, which beds are the pros and cons of each bed. And I'm doing this video because one of my subscribers, Integrity and Karma, is the is his handle, was asking me a few questions about the keyhole garden. He lives in Georgia, gets quite a bit of rain. So I want to say a few things about these gardens, okay? About the keyhole garden. First of all, it's a round garden, and they come in many shapes. Some of them are a little bit lower to the ground. Some of them are a little higher. You know, use your imagination and your climate to determine the type of garden you do. But the main point of it is that it's got an entrance to it. See, you got an entrance here, and then in the case of the keyhole gardens, they tend to have, or this variety, they tend to have a composting basket in the center here, where you dump kitchen scraps like vegetable kitchen scraps, and then you also dump in your gray water. Now these gardens were pioneered by, I believe, British missionaries to areas in Africa where it's very dry throughout the most part of the year, and then they get the monsoon rains, and they wash away the topsoil, so the soil is very depleted, and they needed a way to keep the soil in place, avoid the erosion, and since they're short on water and also on resources to create new soil, well, they figured out that if they put the composting basket in the center and they just recycle their gray water, basically their dirty dish water, in the basket, you're basically irrigating your garden, you're creating compost, and you have a planting area, and you preserve the soil, but you prevent it from eroding. Okay, that was the purpose of these gardens, for having the basket. Okay, like most things, I mean, they kind of spread from one person to another, including myself. When I built this garden, it was more of a novelty for me than anything else. It is very productive, but it was a novelty. And I live in a climate where I get 45 inches of rain a year, where I have water on demand from the tap. All my dirt dish water goes down the drains, etc. So the basket is not necessary. I mean, at least not in the U.S. Maybe I know Reed has some of these gardens. He's in the desert. Maybe this garden is a much better fit for him than it is for me, and definitely it's probably not a good fit for somebody in Georgia. At least not with the basket in the center. Now, if you remove the basket, this garden still remains very, very viable. Let me tell you why. Okay, this is an 8 foot radius garden, an 8 foot diameter garden. So if you take out the area of a circle with an 8 foot diameter, you're talking about a roughly 58.5 square feet of planting area. Okay, take maybe 3 feet off from the wedge that you put in here, and you might talking 55 feet of planting area. Okay, all the planting area is accessible within arm's reach. So from the edge, I can reach any part in the garden. I can go in here in the key and inside the key, and I can reach anything here. So the space is very well optimized. And if you've got shorter arms, or you don't want to be leaning too much into it, you can always make it a little bit shorter. But the same area, just to give you perspective, if I was to put two side-by-side rectangular beds, each measuring 3 by 8, so it would be 48 square feet, right, by two beds. And imagine that I have in between the two beds, so I can walk through the middle, I have 2 feet apart. So basically, I'm occupying an 8 by 8 square foot area. So it's 64 square feet that I'm occupying with two rectangular beds side by side that are 3 by 8. So in more footprint, I'm planting less food. That's where this garden comes in very handy, because, and then also when you have rectangular areas, rectangular beds like this one, look at this one. This one takes a lot of space, right? This is a 4 by 8. But it's taking a lot of space. If I was to put another one next to it here, well, it would occupy 4 and 4 plus 2 feet in between. That would be like a 10 by 8. That would be 80 square feet, and I would be getting about 64 square feet of planting area. Apples to apples, if you do a 3 by 8, and with 2 feet in between, you get a 64 square foot area of footprint, and you get 48 planting area, 48 square feet of planting area. So as you can see, the keyhole garden takes less of a footprint and gives you more planting space. Also, when you walk around the keyhole garden, you don't need that much space, right? Whereas when you walk around a rectangular raised bed, you need space all around, from behind you to work on it. This one, you just walk around it here, and you get access to that anything on this keyhole garden. So the way I see it, that's the main advantage of this garden. Now, it's up to you, completely up to you, if you want to make it taller or smaller. In my case, I did it a little bit higher so that I don't have to be bending over too much. But you can also have it a little bit closer to the soil. I mean, I would say that if you're living in a very dry area where evaporation is an issue, you bring it down to maybe 1 row only of rock, because you want to preserve the humidity in the soil. In fact, if you're living in a desert, a lot of the best practices sometimes maybe a sunken bed instead of a raised bed. That's a different story. So that is the main advantage of the circular garden. I've seen these made also in rectangular shape. So basically, it's just like a U, but a rectangular U. Those also work very well because you get access to the entire garden by going into that little wedge that you have in the middle. And those also very, very good. It's basically the main advantage of the keyhole garden is the space optimization. Now, a square raised bed is a little bit easier to cover in winter and stuff like that, so you need to take that into consideration. Putting like covers and loops around it to cover it, it's easier with a square bed than with a round bed. One big disadvantage of these square for the gardens, one of the reasons why I stopped dropping in kitchen scraps into the basket, is that it attracts rodents. Really, I stopped putting kitchen waste in there back in 2015, I believe. I mean, we had a very, very bad year for rats. I killed about 15 rats with traps. As a matter of fact, I killed one last night here. It's right there. I haven't taken it out with a trap. But they do attract rodents. Even now, when I don't put anything in there, just all those leaves and compost in there, it makes a very nice bed for a rodent. They have a habitat in there, and then they come out and eat tomatoes and stuff like that. So you have to consider that as well. I mean, rodents can burrow anywhere, but you may consider that. So that's about it, folks. I just wanted to give you the pros and cons, and that's it. I'm starting to harvest my pears. There's the key for pear tree. I got a few right now here. They're starting to blush. They're looking nice. Pears you have to harvest them, and then you gotta let them sit in the counter for a few days before they're good to eat. Right now, if you stick your teeth in it, you'll break your teeth. They're rock hard still, but that's the way pears are. If you wait for them to be soft in the tree, they'll become mildy and nasty. So you gotta get them when they're a little bit green, and then just let them rest in the kitchen counter. Here, I'm gonna give you a little tip how you know when a pear is ready, because they're always green and they're always hard. So it's kind of hard to know when they're ready. But a nice little trick is that if you come up to a pear like this, okay, like this one, okay, or like this one. Let me take this leaf off so you can see. If I do this, not pull it, but if I just take it, push it up and crack it, it breaks. You saw that? This one's ready. When they're greener, this stem is real flexible and they don't break. They stay there. I mean, you can do this and it won't break, but when they're ready, you just push it up a little and twist it, and it breaks, comes loose by itself. Just a little tip on pears. Anyway, folks, until next time, and I gotta go eat dinner. Bye-bye.